Hello, everyone.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another semester of Communal Conversations. I
Welcome.
am Cynthia Wheeler,
And I'm Erica Middleton.
and we're your grad assistants in the Office of the Dean of the Chapel. We are so happy to be back for another semester. We have another great semester planned with great panelists, great topics. We're just excited to get into it tonight. Okay.
Jump in.
Yeah, let's jump right in. We're going to go ahead and introduce our wonderful panelists for tonight. And here they come.
Hi, everyone. My name is Simone Rice. I'm a junior health science major psychology minor from Richmond, California.
Hello, everybody. My name is David Robinson. I'm a graduating senior political science major from Orlando, Florida, representing the Chapel Assistants.
Hi, everyone. My name is Inez Jacobs Hinton. I'm a junior chemistry major, math and French double minor from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I'm representing Howard University Philadelphia Club.
Hello, everyone. My name is Oluwatobi Moji Balogun. I go by Toby. I'm a senior economics major, math minor from the Bronx, New York, and I'm representing the Chapel Assistants along with Alternative Spring Break.
All right. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad to see you. At this point, we're going to ask if we can all center our hearts and our minds, and I'll lead us all in a moment of prayer. God of mercy, God of justice, thank you for bringing us here today. Thank you for allowing us to have another edition of our Communal Conversation series and allow us to hear the voices of our students, our Howard University students. Please speak through them and allow them the ability to share whatever is on their hearts and their minds. Please continue to guide us and our nation as we continue to deal with COVID-19, white supremacist violence, a new administration, and continual new days in this world. We thank you for what you've done, and we thank you for what you continue to do in our lives and the lives of the people of this world. Please watch over us, guide, and direct us. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Yes, I am so excited. Thank you, Erica, for that beautiful prayer. I'm so excited to jump in tonight. If you guys are watching with us, please let us know where you're watching with us from. We would love to know. And go ahead and get your questions prepared for these students because we will definitely be asking some viewer questions tonight of our wonderful panelists. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. Erica, you want to start off with the first question?
Yeah, I'll start it off. So I just have a question, just to warm everybody up. How are we doing? I know we're in another virtual semester here at Howard. I know we had our first full one last year and our first kind of half one the semester before. But how is everybody adapting to the virtual landscape this year? Do you feel like you've learned anything from prior semesters, or do you feel like this is going to be kind of a breeze? Just how are we feeling? I'll start with Simone.
I've definitely adjusted better to this semester simply because I don't have to wake up before the sun comes up to do classes and whatnot. And I think also in knowing that I would need to write out all the things that I need to do, because not only do I need to know when they're at, but I also need to make a time conversion. So I also have to just recenter my mind. And I think having a planner this year and actually using it is definitely very helpful for this semester.
I like how you said that because planners are so helpful. I know I keep mine right next to me. How about you, Inez?
So I'm doing pretty well. I'm pretty good by the grace of God. I am definitely ready to get the semester started. Like Simone said, I'm trying to get myself organized early and stay organized and use my planner and all the other organizational type things that I have, because that's something that I struggle with personally. But yeah, hopefully it'll be a really good semester.
That sounds great. David, I know you're a senior. How is it going into your last semester virtually?
Yeah, it's bittersweet for sure. But at least preparation, like mentally, like I got my Google Calendar set up compared to last semester. So that's like a big change. And Yeah, I mean, we're just kind of getting ready for adult life. It's interesting.
I'm sure. How about you, Toby? I know it's also your last semester as well.
Yeah, I think like I said to you guys earlier, like God is my strength at this point, man. So I'm trying to keep optimistic, you know. I learned a lot from last semester, the semester before that. So just trying to, you know, make sure that, you know, I don't repeat the mistakes from before and I move forward, you know.
I totally agree with that. I agree with everything. First of all, actually using it. That is the key to using your planner, people, is actually using it. I'm still learning myself, but don't worry. We're all in the same boat. But you know, in terms of, I like what you just said about not repeating the same mistakes. I think that that's something that's so important. It's something that it's kind of hard to do sometimes if you don't pick up on, you know, the patterns. And I know something that we talked about earlier that's been kind of like running through my mind. How are we going to keep repeating these same mistakes that we've done politically? We now, you know, we have a ton of new faces in the White House, including faces of color, people with different sexual orientations. How do we make sure that we don't kind of, you know, repeat those same mistakes that we did in the past where we had people, but nothing got done? You know, how do we do this? Toby, you know, go ahead and start.
Well, I think it's important for us to kind of, like we said before, about kind of even my personal life. I have to kind of sit down and reflect on the past semesters, you know, in order to see where I went wrong, where I went right, you know. And I think it's important for us to kind of sit back and reflect on history, not just like a close term, but like also have this long term look of history. You know, I think right now, given everything that's going on in the country, I think that's something that a lot of people have been doing. They've been trying to look back in order to see how maybe what are the historical precedents, like what has caused the things that we're seeing now to come about. But I think it's important not only just to look back in history, but how we look back, you know, make sure that we not only question like the narratives, but question how these narratives are created about history, you know, question the historiography, which is what they call like the study of history, the study of history in a certain sense. You know, I think John Henrik Clark, I hope I don't mess up the quote, but you know, I think he said history is the clock that we use to tell the time of day for people, you know? So I think it's important for us to make sure that we take ownership of that. You know, I think given all the different things that we've seen, it's happened in a certain sense before, you know what I mean? Well, at least there's been things of that nature that happened before, you know? So it's important for us to like critically look at history in order to understand what's going on now.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, like being able to look back seriously, like you said, at yourself and as a society, being able to look back at what we've done, it's going to be important for us. And, you know, not just in this, you know, in the next year, but like going forward, it's going to be important for a lot of years what happens in the way we tell the story of what has happened now and what has happened in America since its founding. Simone, how do you know, what are you looking at? What for you? What is going to keep you from kind of making these same mistakes? What do you think that we have to do to keep us from making these same mistakes?
I think like when you initially asked the question, I thought of the same thing similar to Toby of like looking back and actually naming the problem. I feel like you can't solve a problem unless you name it. And I think also you have to name the perpetuators of that problem as well. I think a lot of times people beat around the bush, and I'm the type of person, like, if you did it, and you just need to own it. And I think that, take this however you want, but I think that people need to be held accountable in real time. And I think when we talk about like anything, any ism or phobia or whatever, it's not that it just exists by itself. It didn't just wake up one day and was like, hey guys, I'm here. It exists because people open their mouths and or do whatever they need to do to perpetuate that. So I think it's also looking back at the whole theme, I guess, of some certain periods in history, but it's also understanding that people did that. And the same way you can hold past people in the past accountable that may no longer be with us, you can hold people in the now accountable as well. And of course, it related to myself. Like I have to hold myself accountable by actually using my planner and actually checking off stuff and making sure that I follow what I'm doing and not getting sidetracked. And I think it's very difficult for school and stuff like that, but it's not difficult for society. It's only difficult if you don't want to actually really solve the problem because you're afraid of who it's going to benefit. That's yeah.
No, points are being made.
but actually, and kind of along those same lines, I know we talk about having to look back at the history and understanding what brought us to this point. I know on January 6th, we had the Capitol insurrection attack, which I know I would consider white supremacist violence in the long line of history. And I was kind of wondering what you all's thoughts on that was, and how it kind of falls in line with the history we've seen in this country of violence perpetrated by white Americans or white supremacists on Black people and other persons of color. So I guess we can toss this over to David and see how your thoughts are.
Yeah. It's from like the Trump tweets and all the social media hubbub before it. Like there was obviously, like, I was aware to look on the news on the 6th. I just didn't expect it to be like as in your face as it was. And I guess the main takeaway that I saw, like, after the fact, like they went home. Like it was as simple as like, okay, you were in the White House. Oh, there's your photo. The guy who was like in the White House. And he's like, yeah, I just went back home. Like it was as simple as that. Walked in, walked out. And like, at least back in like the community forums, like they're still like propagating their like communities there, which is like a very isolated, safe space of like kind of like conservative ideals and all that stuff. And they're like, you know, like historically speaking, like we're going to be looked at in the next 50 years as like the weird racists that broke into like the White House. And that's like not the context we were going for. And they were just concerned about that notion because they were like, there's no like culpability of like guilt. There was no like regret, no remorse. It was like, we need to make a stand to stop the election because our guy lost. And it wasn't anything deeper than that for some people, but other people, it's extremely deeper than that. So it was a weird crowd of all these different ideals coming together. And it did have a banner that was quite scary for most Americans. So.
Yeah, David, I absolutely agree. I think it was definitely an amalgam of different parts of our country and different sections and factions. I know people have said this is not America, but this is deeply embedded within the framework of what America's been. I mean, we're a nation founded on genocide and enslavement. So when we see this violence, it kind of perpetuates what we've seen in the past. Inez, have you had any thoughts about what happened at the Capitol insurrection, or what the response has been by law enforcement or other groups?
Yeah, so I think the first word that comes to mind is entitlement. I think that the people who stormed the Capitol felt entitled. And that's like a pattern that we have to acknowledge and look at in regards to like white supremacists is entitlement. Even in regards to like the COVID pandemic, and a lot of these same people are the people who are refusing to wear masks and refusing to, you know, follow guidelines. It's the fact that they've never been told no, they've never lost something, and now they feel as though they're entitled to do whatever they need to do to get back. I think that it's, like you said before, a lot of people were saying, you know, this isn't America, but it definitely is. Like I said before, you have to look at the patterns. And I think moving forward, like we definitely do need to hold people accountable. We need to look inward in regards to not only in our country, but in regards to our law enforcement, in regards to our officials. We need to hold them accountable and figure out, you know, how we can prevent this from happening again and again and again.
Thank you, Inez. Accountability is absolutely important, and it seems like something we haven't had as much as is needed in this nation. But Toby, have you had any thoughts about this, or just a response from what you've been feeling?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of great points about this idea of accountability and entitlement. And I think the big issue, I think the big thing that a lot of people missed was like kind of like this can't happen here. Like, why would this happen? Even though that there is a historical precedent for it. Like, I remember like I think a lot of people were talking about Wilmington in 1898, where they had like a coup. People were talking about Wilmington, North Carolina, but when that happened, the first thought that came to my head was New Orleans in 1866, and that was when they were trying to have a convention, a constitutional convention for the state. You know, after the Civil War, all the constitutional conventions they had to create new constitutions in order to rejoin the Union. So this Constitution Convention, they invited Black people, they invited white people to come together, and a white supremacist mob came in and killed everybody. So I think and these are things that we haven't really contended with in our history. So I think it's something we need to understand, that yes, white people are willing to use violence. People who don't want to see peace, people who don't want to see the right thing happen, are willing to use violence in order to achieve their ends. And I think we need to contend with that fact, and deal with it appropriately.
Absolutely. I think that's a great place actually to take a pause. Give you some time to think about that. How do we contend with what's going on? So we're going to take a small interlude very quickly. While we are away, run and get your water. But most importantly, think of some questions, because when we get back, we have more questions for the students, and we will also be asking viewer questions. So if you have any questions for these wonderful students about how they're creating newness in this year, anything that you want to know about, drop it in the comments and we will bring them back up when we get back. And we'll see you in a second.
We live in troubled times. Seems like the sun won't shine. When will we realize God is on our side? He hides us in His arms, protecting us from harm. It's good to realize God is on our side. Nothing can separate. He gives us strength to take all that this world may bring. God is on our side. God is on our side. God is on our
Welcome back. I hope you got some water or a snack. And most importantly, I hope you thought of a question for these students. Go ahead and drop your questions in the comment section wherever you're watching from, and we will be sure to ask them. But let's go ahead and jump back into this conversation. Since we were actually going on this track anyway, I want to go ahead and talk about COVID, you guys. So as we know, we are now in a new administration who is going to handle this pandemic at least a little bit differently. But even with that, President Biden has already said that what we see over the next few months is going to be pretty rough as far as COVID goes, just because we're so far behind. So I just want to talk to you guys a little bit. Can you tell me, one, how you're feeling at this point? We've been in it almost a year, that we've kind of been overwhelmed with COVID. How are you feeling at this point? And how are you feeling just about the way that we're going in at this point with Biden and what they're proposing for us? What's running through your mind? And we'll start with Inez.
So at this current moment, I'm feeling grateful, for one, because, me, I haven't gotten sick. My immediate family hasn't gotten sick. So I'm very grateful for that. I am also feeling hopeful in a way. I know that this new administration is going to handle the pandemic a lot differently. They're going to have to, in order for us to, fully contain COVID, the new strains. And I think that I'm hoping that this administration will also look to science and the facts, which is something that I know that the previous administration struggled with. Just being able to identify the facts, work with science, use science to help us get to where we need to be. We are very behind in regards to, progress, in regards to, trying to distribute vaccines, trying to get everything back to, some sense of normalcy. But I am hopeful that we will be able to move forward within the next, hopefully, 6 months.
Absolutely. And now I want to ask Simone about this as well, especially because, Simone, you're over in California. I know Governor Newsom just took away the stay-at-home order. Tell us what's going through your mind right now.
I mean, I echo what Inez said. I do think that this administration is going to be obviously more caring of people and making sure that everybody that is sick, in terms of giving hospitals the proper PPE and all that stuff, and getting people vaccinated, making sure that there's money and resources for schools to reopen, businesses, et cetera, et cetera. And I think the only thing I worry about at the federal level is just Congress, because I feel like that was the only reason why everybody was such in a dire state last year, like in the previous administration, because the Senate wasn't trying to do anything. And even now with the slim majority, it's like, what does that necessarily even mean? But I mean, when it comes to California, because my mom does work in the public health sector, so she deals with this stuff like on a daily basis to understand what our ICU capacity is. And honestly, as much as I've always tried to, be there for my governor, because he's been trying, he really has, like from the jump, at least there was like an effort to understand that this was a problem. We need to protect people. I don't feel as if this lifting the stay-at-home order is okay. I don't think it's a smart thing to do, because we don't have an ICU capacity. There's people getting triaged in parking lots and parking garages, and they're telling you, you may not want to get into a car crash because there's no bed for you. Like how, like that's just so, it's not making sense. And I understand the reason is because businesses are on their last leg, and I get that, but I can rebuild a business. I can't resurrect somebody. I can't do that. Maybe somebody else can. I can't do that. And I just feel as if the priorities, although they're both very grave priorities and dire, and I understand that, I feel as if the emphasis should be put on saving lives, in my opinion. So it's kind of a doozy, but I hope it, like, I'm hopeful, like how Inez said, but I don't know what it's going to lead to at this point.
Absolutely. I think that's perfect. And that was just a perfect statement. We need to not emphasize the businesses, emphasize saving the lives. Obviously that should be our primary, that's what we need to care about. You mentioned something important, Simone. You mentioned Congress, and the fact that people have been in dire straits for a long time, because they just had nothing. They had no money, no way to get through this, and Congress was just at a stalemate. We talked a little bit about a new Congress, but I know Toby mentioned earlier to us, not in the show, you guys, but Toby mentioned to us that he is actually in Jamal Bowman's district. So that's one of the new faces in Congress. Toby, can you kind of talk about that a little bit, and maybe talk about what Representative Bowman, what has he been talking about COVID related? I mean, what have you seen? Yeah.
Yeah. So Jamal Bowman, I remember when he was primarying our current incumbent, the past incumbent Elliot Engel, and his big thing was, just kind of bringing a new voice, new energy, and just he's a school principal. That's what his profession was before he decided to run for office. But he was a principal, and I think he believed he was not liking what he was seeing from the current establishment, and he thought that they could be bolder. I think that's something that really captivated a lot of people's attention. I think it's pretty hard to have a whole entire campaign in the middle of a pandemic. You can't. I remember when AOC was doing her primary challenge, she was knocking on everybody's doors, hitting the ground hard, and her district is right next to mine. But you can't really do that in the middle of a pandemic. But I think his message still resonated with people regardless. And I think that's something that a lot of people, from Cori Bush in St. Louis, to, people in Georgia, I think people just don't like what they're seeing and they want something different. However, for me, even though I did vote for Jamal Bowman, I am skeptical of their ability to kind of push through all those different interests, all the gridlock and all that. However, I have no choice but to be hopeful. And not only that, but also do work in my own community to affect the change that I want to see. I can't just depend on these people, but I have to hold them accountable and to make sure I'm doing the work in my own community in order to affect change.
Absolutely. That's perfect. Perfect answer. I know I say that to you guys all the time, but genuinely, you guys are some of the smartest students I feel like we've ever encountered. David, do you want to get in on this? I mean,
on just electoral changes? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't actually know about Bowman until I saw this. It was a documentary about Jared Kushner and his real estate enterprises and how Bowman was a major factor in that development, and how he was attacking a slumlord basically in that fight. But in terms of the new faces of Congress, I mean, while we do have a far left, I guess, radical left side, there's also this far right side that also came in. So we have Lauren Boebert of Colorado. She's a character. These people should be reality TV stars. Her campaign or ad video is I'm going to bring a Glock to Congress. And she has gotten into repeated fights about bringing an actual loaded handgun to Congress because she doesn't, there's rules against that, and they're bringing in rules against that. As well as there was a Georgia representative, Green, who was also elected. And her biggest thing was that when she ran against her Democratic candidate, her supporters were so they basically attacked the Democratic candidate so that they resigned, so that she ran unopposed basically in the general election. So qualifications kind of but we'll see. So we have that kind of as a counterbalance to a more leftist kind of Congress as well. So we're seeing how it's going to shake out.
Yeah, I'm seeing where we have a wide variety of ideas that are represented right now in politics. And it seems like an ongoing theme for you all is you feel hope and you feel newness that can transpire within these next 4 years. I see we have a question from the audience. It looks like it's coming from Rev Anna 992. And the question is, have the experiences from the past 4 years and 2020 in particular caused any of you to rethink your educational or career goals? And we can start this off with Simone.
I don't know if I haven't changed it. I think I've just been more steadfast in my goal. I want to be a physical therapist, but I did kind of add it on to it, I should say. I still want to be a physical therapist, but I want to get my master's in public health so I can basically redo this entire healthcare system, because this healthcare system isn't where it needs to be. And I think that's why, not necessarily that's why COVID happened, but I think that's why it hit communities harder than it hit others. So I think for me, I just kind of enhanced it and really change it. So yeah.
Understandable, very understandable. Enhanced it. I like that word that you used. How about you, Inez? Have you seen any shifts in your career educational goals?
Kind of, sorta. So I want to be a forensic scientist. I think that science is a very big part of like very big cases and different like legal matters that people don't necessarily recognize. But I have also started to dabble in education a little bit. I think that education, especially now, is very important. And so I was lucky enough, my senior year of high school, I got an opportunity to student teach and I loved it. But I think that empowering like the youth is one of the things that I think is going to help us get through, you know, a lot of these big issues, not only empowering ourselves, but empowering like the people that are going to come after us. Because, once we're old and, can't be out in the streets and rallying and can't be, making the changes that we want to be, the youth is going to be, who we turn to. So I have definitely started thinking about changing, my career goals eventually and getting into education. But for now, I still want to be a forensic scientist.
That's important. I definitely feel like you can wed the two together. Education is really a pathway for so many, and being able to empower the youth is very important. And you can definitely do that with the background you want to go into. How about you, David? Have you felt any shifts occur?
Yeah, for sure. At least I'm from Orlando, Florida, so like at least like being sent back home for like COVID-19 and all that, it really made me like refocus on like what my actual community needed and like what the state and local politics was going on in that local scene. I know post graduation I want to go to law school, so I'm definitely more focused on like remaining in the region and then focusing on that and making sure like I can actually like build a community or some sort of like substantive changes there, because it is definitely, it needs help.
Yeah, I can only imagine what's happening in Florida. I know there's some levels that I'm sure you're up to help. But how about you, Toby? Have you felt it yourself or?
I think something that we talk about a lot in ASB, and I think it kind of comes from um, President Frederick, is this idea of kind of like mission over major. And I feel like over the like, past 4 years, I've really come to really understand what this mission is for me, at least for me and myself. And I think it really, like Inez, has to do with education. And also not only that, but like this also comes from Dean Richardson, who like talks about being in the moment, understanding that. So that's something that I really kind of like internalized. So I when I first came to Howard, I was a finance major, but I realized I kind of need to kind of think outside of myself a little bit more in what I want to do. And that's what led me to change to something where I can kind of study ways in order to really support my community. And that's kind of, and I think the past 4 years have kind of showed me like kind of like the urgent need for it. So, especially like the past year, so that's something that I really feel like I need to do, is to make sure that I'm teaching, learning, and serving my community.
Excellent. I'm really excited, you guys. I know you was it Inez who mentioned, yeah, that you were grateful and you're hopeful. I am too. I am. I'm really grateful and I'm hopeful for you guys. Just because of the work that you're doing right now. I like that you all are looking back. You're reflecting, even if the country is not ready to reflect yet. You all are, and that gives me hope for the future. So this has been a great conversation tonight, you guys. I am so full.
Yeah, I truly.
I want to shout out everybody who was in the audience tonight. There's a couple comments I specifically I want to pull out. First of all, Amber D from O Town. I think that's for you, David. Um, yeah, David, I think that's for you. I want to shout out Cecil Duffy, our assistant dean at the chapel. Yes, great commentary. Of course, yes. B. Smith, yeah, they were definitely on target tonight. And last but certainly not least, oh, I'm sorry, I have to shout out you guys. This is my mom, Rev Anna 992. Shout out to my mom for coming in, logging in. We're always thankful for parents. And of course, last but not least, we want to shout out the amazing Dean Bernard Richardson, who is the reason that we're here tonight. Thank you. Yes, Dean, we agree. These are great answers. These students they're in it. They know what they're talking about, and they definitely are going to set us up. I'm excited for my future because a world where these are our leaders sounds like a great place to live. So,
absolutely a hopeful tomorrow, and you guys are blazing your paths and your trails, and it's so exciting to see the work that you're going to be doing individually and collectively for our communities. So,
absolutely.
So excited.
Thank you guys for coming and talking to us tonight. Thank you for talking to the people and for letting them know. You guys, thank you for watching us tonight and for sharing with us. We're super excited. Thank you to the chapel staff and especially our producer, Mr. Dillard, who you all never see, but who absolutely is the heartbeat. Thank you so much. And we cannot wait to see you in 2 weeks.
Woo. We have some fire coming for you all in February. That's all I'm going to say now.
Okay, just get ready for Black History Month. Okay, you're going to want to be here. We will see you in a couple weeks, you guys. Thank you so much.
Take care, everyone. God bless.
Keep on walking, I'm gonna keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let injustice turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let injustice turn me round. I'm gonna keep on walking, I'm gonna keep on marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let racism turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let racism turn me round. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land.